Welcome back to part two of the ETPharma Octave podcast, where we explore the forces shaping the next phase of growth for India's pharmaceutical industry. In our first episode, we discussed compliance first digital transformation in pharma manufacturing. Today, we are taking that conversation further. The topic for today is the inspection ready enterprise, a new operating model for Indian pharma. As we all know, India is already a global powerhouse in generic medicines and vaccines. Now, with billions of dollars worth of patented drugs nearing expiry, the industry has a major opportunity to strengthen its global presence. But unlocking that opportunity depends on two critical factors: compliance and audit readiness. With revised Schedule M GMP standards now mandatory and increasing scrutiny from global regulators, manufacturers must ensure quality, transparency, and operational excellence at scale. So, to discuss how technology can help make that happen, I have joined by two gentlemen here today for the discussion. Mr. Palash Chatterjee, Country Manager, Octave Reliance. Welcome, Mr. Palash. And Mr. Vyankatesh Patole, Solution Consultant, Octave Attune. Welcome, Mr. Venkatesh. To begin with, I would start, I'll go to Mr. Palash with a fundamental question. Pharma companies have invested heavily in ERP, LIMS, MES, and other digital system over the years. Yet, data silos and information management challenge continue to persist. Why is that, and why hasn't simply adding more technology hasn't solved the problem? Yeah, over to Mr. Palash.
Yeah, Pratibha, good afternoon, and thanks for having me on your show. To address your question, see, the core issue is not a shortage of software. It is basically a shortage of connected data. So, most mid to large Indian pharma sites have basically around 4 to 5, 6 operational systems that were procured at different times and often by different functions. So, and which they never designed to share a common asset or a batch identifier. So, hence, the consequence is that the same physical asset may have three different names, uh, three different maintenance histories, depending on whether you're looking at the ERP, the maintenance system, or even the batch record in the QMS. Now, when an inspector asks for the full maintenance and the calibration history of that particular asset linked to a specific batch, assembling that picture manually can take a quality team hours or even days. Recently, we did a global survey by Octave, and we found that 58% of these pharma executives report poor integration between their operational systems, and I think about 74%, delayed as a key contributor to their operational challenges. Now, those two data points are directly connected. The poor integration produces stale data, and the stale data undermines both operational decisions and compliance evidence. Now, next is which is crucial is the financial impact, which is tangible. So any unplanned production downtime is rated as a strong or a severe business impact by 64% of pharma executives, which we did in the same study. And especially in a batch environment where a single reactor run can represent tens of lakhs of product value, the cost of an unplanned stoppage is immediate and measurable. So the fragmentation also drives a cultural problem, and quality becomes a reactive functions rather than an embedded one. So teams, they spend a lot of time reconciling records, and after an event, rather than preventing the deviation in the first place. So So that's, I'm sure, like, answers your questions a bit.
Yeah, Mr. Palash, that's an important distinction. Many organizations have invested in digital tools, but without a connected data foundation, those investment can still leave critical gaps. So, moving forward, let's now look at how those gaps become even more significant in today's regulatory environment. So, the next question to you, Mr. Palash, again, the FDA is moving towards surprise inspections, which means continuous inspection readiness. For plant operation teams, what does continuous inspection readiness actually require in practice?
See, audit readiness is a crucial challenge for any organizations, and especially if it is a unannounced audit. It causes severe issues. See, the announcement by the FDA specifically targets non-American facilities, claiming that there was not a level playing field between US and foreign facilities. Now, with India being one of the largest suppliers for the US market, this will, definitely affect local manufacturers. That goes without saying. In parallel, revised Schedule M, introduced by our Ministry of Health in late around 2023, brought India's GMP framework substantially closer to WHO, even European GMP, and PIS expectations. So it requires, among other things, rigorous, I would say, process validations, documented change control, computerized system validations under ALCOA plus principles, and formal quality risk management. So, as you are aware, like, the practical implication of ALCOA plus, which records most must be, attributable, legible, contemporaneous, original, and accurate. So that's the acronym for ALCOA for, audience who is not aware of. Is that a paper log filled in at the end of a shift does not qualify, essentially, right? So the data must be captured at the point and the time of the activity, ideally by the system executing the activity rather than by a person transcribing it. To add onto it, like, for example, plants still operating with paper batch records and disconnected maintenance logs, a surprise inspection creates an immediate crisis. The quality teams must manually pull records from multiple systems, often siloed, cross reference them, and hope that no discrepancies exist. That process is not only slow, it is inherently error prone, and gives an inspector legitimate grounds for concern about data integrity. Uh, for large manufacturers, we've seen that the reputational and financial stakes of a warning letter or import alert are extremely severe, potentially costing 2 to 10 crores of rupees in lost output, even market penalties, and remediation, before accounting for the longer term damage to export relationships. Now, continuous readiness means that the data required for an inspection is always current, always linked across systems, and always retrievable within minutes, rather, days, like, so the standard is only achievable through integrated, I would say, digital infrastructure, not through better spreadsheet management.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Palash. You have elaborated it nice. It's very well, answered. So clearly, inspection readiness today is less about preparing for an audit and more about maintaining a constant state of preparedness. So that again raises an important question about the technology architecture required to support such a model. So let me bring in the next expert, Mr. Venkatesh. This one is for you, Mr. Venkatesh. Let's get into the architecture of the solution. Octave's Attune portfolio covers enterprise asset management, asset performance management, and quality management. For someone who has not yet connected those three disciplines, can you explain? how each can contribute to plant operations, and what specifically becomes possible when they work together that is not possible when they operate in isolation. Over to you.
So that's a great question, Pratibha. And honestly, it's one of the most important discussions happening today because organizations have traditionally managed these areas in silos. So if we look at it closely, enterprise asset management, asset performance management, and quality management are each designed to answer a different business question, but they are all connected to the same operational outcome and same operational objective as well. So Attune EM is focused on assets themselves. It helps organization understand the current state of every GMP critical asset, when it was last maintained, when it was last calibrated, and whether it is qualified and available for production or not. So, if I want to put it down in simple words, it answers the question that can I safely and confidently use this asset to produce my next batch or not? Whereas Attune APM, on the other hand, it looks ahead rather than focusing on what has already happened. It helps predict what could happen next. And it does by analyzing equipment performance and condition data. It identifies early signs of degradation or estimated failure risk and helps maintenance team prioritize their efforts before issues are already or whether before issues already happen during our production. Then there's Attune Reliance, which is a quality management system which focuses on quality and compliance. So it help organization answers questions such as did the batch meet quality requirement, or were there any deviations? Do we have any complete and traceability document available for the regulatory review? So now the interesting part is that each system delivers value on its own, but the challenge is most compliance and operational issues arises at the boundaries. So let's take an example. A simple deviation logged in a QMS system that is not automatically linked to a maintenance event, or a predicted failure from APM that does not automatically generates a work order in EM, and also risk flag in a quality management system. So means that each system is creating data that is not utilized or cannot be utilized by a other system to act upon. And this is where integration becomes powerful. So when these platforms are integrated, the asset identifier in Attune EM becomes the common thread that connects operational history as well as predictive analytics and also the quality evidence. So imagine a calibration of a critical equipment has expired. So this automatically triggers a workflows that simultaneously updates the asset qualification status also, and which in the result generates a work order for recalibration and flags any batches produced after the expiry of the calibration to the quality team for review. So if we followed traditional methods, so this would take a quality team to go through multiple emails and hours of investigation, but which happens automatically and in real time because of the integration between all the three systems. And if we talk on the reliability side, Attune EM connects to the live process data sources such as data historians as well as offline data from the operation management platforms. It can analyze sensor data to identify early indicators of bearing failures or seal degradation or performance drift before they can cause a failure or worse, a production or a product quality deviation at the production end. So that predictive intelligence feeds directly back into EM as prioritized maintenance actions. And if we look from quality perspective as well, Octave's Reliance brings more than 40 integrated applications, which covers document management, deviation handling, kappa workflows, audit management, and regulatory submissions also. So when it shares a data layer with Attune EM, quality events are automatically contextualized against the asset maintenance and calibration history, which is exact evidence trail that regulators expect during an inspection. So when you bring all three disciplines together, the result is what might be described as a closed loop system where your predictive data informs maintenance scheduling, maintenance execution updates the asset records, and the asset record informs quality batch disposition, and at the end, quality data feedbacks into risk prioritization for the next maintenance cycle.
Yeah. So, Mr. Venkatesh, the next question is also for you because as you've explained it well about the asset management system, but there is a mental model that many pharma plants still operate with. What is the maintenance and quality? Which is that the maintenance and quality are separate functions with separate accountability, right? So the
Mhm.
maintenance team keeps equipment running. The quality team manages compliance. So, what is there any? What is it wrong with that model? What do you think about it, and why does the quality of a batch actually depend on the reliable strategy of the asset that produced it? I think it's a
Mhm.
very important and critical question to be answered, and many will benefit out of it. Over to you.
True, true, true. So that's a very important and interesting question as well, because it directly challenges the mindset that has existed in the pharma industry for decades. So historically, it was perfectly normal to think of maintenance and quality as two separate functions with separate responsibilities. And it was in the era of like paper records and schedule inspections as well. But if we talk about today, the reality on ground is totally different. Because in modern pharma manufacturing, asset condition is no longer only maintenance concern. It is direct input to the product quality as well. So the conventional response to this overlap is more frequent manual checks by quality personnel, and that is very expensive. It is inconsistent and insufficient in a high throughput environment also. So the better response is to make the asset condition data visible to quality systems in real time so that a process parameter drift is flagged and acted on before it affects the batch rather than after. And asset performance management closes this gap when Attune APM is monitoring the process data of critical assets. It can detect a developing issue such as vibration patterns or for the case temperature trends or pressure deviations and communicate that specific risk to the quality team via QMS before a batch is ever released, so that then a quality team can decide whether to hold the batch for additional testing or whether the deviation is within an acceptable range and which is supported by data rather than just judgment alone. So ultimately, I would agree that batch quality and asset reliability are two sides of the same coin, because a pharma company cannot consistently produce high quality products using assets whose conditions and performance are not fully understood. The more visible quality team have into the asset health, the more visibility maintenance team have into the quality impact, the stronger the overall manufacturing operation becomes. And that's why we are seeing leading pharma manufacturers move away from viewing maintenance and quality as a separate function and towards a connected operating model where reliability and compliance and product quality are managed together.
Going on, I would also ask about, that's a compelling perspective. If asset health directly influences product quality, then the conversation naturally extends beyond operations and into compliance. Palash, let me bring you on the regulatory dimensions here.
So, So there is a specific regulatory dimension here.
Mm,
FDS process analytical technology guidance and the International Council for Harmonization's Q10 Pharma Quality System Framework
mm,
both push towards continuous process verification rather than the conventional endpoint batch testing. So a bit of technology here. So Indian manufacturers targeting US and EU markets, increasingly need to demonstrate that their quality assurance is embedded in production. Okay, not on applied retrospectively. Uh, I would suggest a linked EAM, APM, QMS architecture is the operational infrastructure that makes continuous process verification credible. Clear? So the shift in mindset is from quality assurance as a gatekeeper at the end of a process to quality assurance as a property of the process itself.
mm.
So this shift requires asset reliability data, to be visible within quality workflows, which is precisely what the integration helps.
Okay. So quality is increasingly becoming something that is built into the process rather than verified at the end of it. So let's now turn into another question that frequently comes up when companies consider this transition, the business case and the return on investment. So one of the immediate business cases for better assets management is reducing unplanned downtime. But there's a concern that moving from a reactive to a predictive maintenance requires significant, capital outlay on sensors, connectivity, and software, which can make the net economics unclear. And how do Indian pharma manufacturers think about the cost equation here, and where does the return actually come from? I would like to go to Mr. Venkatesh on this. Mr. Venkatesh, if you can help us understand it better.
So that's a fair concern, Pratibha. And even if I was in the shoe of any plant head or any CO, or rather CFO, I would also look into the same concern where if I'm investing XYZ amount in any software or any technology, how it would add a value for me and for my manufacturing plant. And this is the question what we hear very quite often. So the way I look at it is the comparison shouldn't be between cost of predictive maintenance and doing nothing. Rather than it should be between the cost of predictive maintenance and cost of an unexpected failure. And this comparison changes the perspective totally because in a pharma plant, unplanned downtime does not only means a delayed batch. So it can mean a failed batch, which destroys both product and a raw material value also. It can mean an out of specification event that triggers a deviation investigation and a kappa cycle, which is corrective and preventive action cycle, and potentially a regulatory report. So the fully loaded cost of a single critical equipment failure can be multiples of what a year of APM monitoring costs. So, in the recent research, what we as Octave have found out in Europe is that 66% of pharma executives have seen reduced downtime and extended equipment lifespan as a larger or transformative benefit than a technology can bring. So, the question is which technology and deployed in what sequence. What's also important is that the journey doesn't have to start with major sensor investments because most Indian pharma manufacturers already have substantial process data which is available through their DCS, SCADA, and historian systems already. So the challenge is usually not data collection, but it's turning that data into actionable insights. And that's why we typically recommend starting with a strong EM foundation, building a structured asset hierarchy then digitizing your maintenance processes, and creating a single source of asset information that alone can justify the first phase of implementation. Once that foundation is in place, APM can be layered on to identify failures, optimize maintenance schedule, and reduce unnecessary preventive maintenance activities. So the if you look, the maintenance cost efficiency is also about labor and part inventory, and it's not just about downtime avoidance. So when maintenance is scheduled based on actual asset condition rather than calendar intervals, plants run fewer unnecessary preventive maintenance tasks, and that in the result frees technician time. They also hold less safety stock in their spare part inventory, and Attune EM supports this through calibrated work order management and integrated inventory, which in the result ensures that parts are available when needed without holding any excessing stock. So for Indian manufacturers who are operating multiple sites, the integration also enables cross-site benchmarking of asset performance. So if we look at it as an example, so if there is the same type of reactor at two different facilities and which is showing different reliability profiles, so where APM analytics can identify why and enable the better performance maintenance practices to be adopted across the network and across the sites. And that network effect amplifies the return of investment also.
Okay. Yeah, I have a further question to it. For a head of operation or a quality director at an Indian pharma company who's like convinced that integration is the right direction, but is looking at the complexity of connecting EAM, APM, and QMS across a multi-site operation. What does a realistic starting point look like, and what are the pitfalls that organization tends to underestimate? Mr. Venkatesh, I'll come to you first on this, and then I will go to Mr. Palash. Over to you, Mr. Venkatesh.
So that's again a great question, because many organizations understand the destination, but they are really concerned about the journey. And my advice would be not to start with the technology, but first start with master data governance. Uh, Before any integration can work, every GMP critical asset needs a single and standardized identifier that is consistent across your maintenance, quality, and business systems. So this might sound a bit administrative, but again, this is the foundation of which everything else depends upon. Organizations that try to connect systems without first aligning that asset hierarchy ends up with integration that produce noise rather than insights. So the other common mistake is trying to do everything at once. So instead, what I would recommend is a phased approach. The first phase should focus on EM as a system of record for your asset life cycle, maintenance execution, and calibration status. So simply having clean, current, and accessible asset information in one platform delivers immediate value from both operational and compliance perspective. So it creates a single source of truth and makes maintenance activities visible to quality team in real time. After this, the second phase is to introduce APM and connect to the EM foundation, routing process data from existing historians into this analytics layer. And at this stage, predictive maintenance alert begins to flow, and the maintenance scheduling conversation shifts from what does the calendar say to what does the asset data actually say. And the third phase is QMS, which might be the third, but it is also the most important process in the whole integration life cycle. So that after integrating with QMS, that quality events are automatically linked to the asset records. and deviation investigations have access to full maintenance and calibration history. And this all happens automatically without manual intervention. And that is more important. And this is the stage at which continuous inspection readiness becomes achievable rather than aspirational.
Yeah, as you're speaking, it looks more easier. I think practically implementing is also, it's very crucial. And that phased approach, which you have said, makes the journey feel much more manageable. However, even in a well-planned transformation programs, there can be an obstacle. Someone can encounter anything, any kind of an obstacle. So let me bring in Mr. Palash here. From your experience, what are some of the pitfall organizations tend to underestimate, and what they should be focused on? Mr.
Yeah,
Palash.
Pratibha, I think my colleague Venkatesh, he has really expressed it well. How it should be taken in a phased manner. He's an extremely hands-on guy, domain expert. I mean, he has really expressed it well. But just to add to what he said, probably I'll have a couple of points to share with you. See the pitfall that organizations most frequently underestimate is the organizational dimension. Okay, integration projects are often scoped as IT projects, with IT carrying the primary accountability. But the data governance decisions, which Venkatesh mentioned, are operational, and quality decisions that IT cannot make, unilaterally. So, a related pitfall is, how do you prioritize the dashboard over the data foundation? There are visualization tools which are appealing because they produce, visible outputs quickly. These are very eye catching, but a dashboard built on inconsistent underlying data usually misleads rather than it informs. uh, so the industry survey that Hexagon slash Octave conducted, with about 70% of pharma executives reporting more tools than a year ago, and I think around 70% saying that those tools lack connectivity, is a kind of a direct description of the dashboard first trap. Okay, so build the connected data layer first, which Venkatesh mentioned, and then we can go to the visualizations, which becomes genuinely useful. And finally, my take is the compliance timeline is not a constraint to be managed. To be very honest, it's a forcing function to be used. The revised Schedule M deadline, and combined with increasing US FDA inspection frequency, creates organizational urgency that digital transformation leaders can use to secure executive sponsorship and cross-functional resource commitment. That window should not be missed. uh, so I think these are some of the points which I wanted to add on top of Venkatesh, to
Mhm.
address this issue out here.
Yeah.
So I would suggest, like, to end this podcast, uh, I would recommend my the audience out here to visit the Octave website and have a deeper look into the solutions, the white papers, the case study, to understand more about the Octave Attune, EAM, APM, and of course the Octave Reliance QMS. Thanks from our side.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks a lot, Mr. Palash, for that. I hope listeners would be happy to go and visit the mentioned websites and gain more knowledge. So, that's an important note to end on. The successful transformation depends on as much on governance and organizational alignment as it does on technology itself. So, once again, I would want to thank their subject matter expertise, Mr. Palash and Venkatesh, for taking out their time and coming in to the podcast and elaborating on the important topic here, and giving all the nuances which they know, which benefit the overall, pharma industry representative. And this has been a very clear walkthrough of a challenge that affects the entire industry. I would say, if there is one theme that has come through consistently in today's discussion, it is that compliance, reliability, and quality can no longer operate as separate functions. Connected data, integrated system, and shared accountability are becoming essential capabilities for pharmaceutical manufacturers who are navigating a more demanding regulatory and operational a landscape. So that's a wrap for today's episode, and thank you to our listeners for tuning in, and we hope you found the discussion insightful. Stay connected with ET Pharma, share your feedback, and join us again for our next conversation on the trends shaping the future of pharma. Thanks.